So let's first of all look at what similar shapes are. If we take a look at our two triangles here, these two shapes are similar. They're both isosceles triangles, and they're also the same shape where one is larger than the other. And that's what our definition of similarity is. The shapes will be similar even if the sides aren't necessarily the same length. Angles in similar shapes, it says here, are always equal though. And that's how we know, finally, if the shape is similar. Because it will have sides of different lengths, but the angles inside the shape will be the same. So if we take a look here, those little red lines show us that the triangles are isosceles. And this is what shows us that they're similar triangles, the fact that they both have that bottom base left angle of 67 degrees. Congruence, however, well, congruence, if shapes are congruent, they are identical to each other. Okay, so what that means is there won't be any difference in the lengths. Everything about the two shapes will be the same, the angles and the lengths. Now, if we take a look at these two shapes, they are congruent. They're both arrowheads, and if you turned the other one around and fitted it onto the other, you'd see they were both identical in shape and size. Now, you need to be aware that they may well rotate some of these shapes when they ask you to identify the congruent ones. Rotation doesn't change the shape at all. If the shape is still exactly the same size, then it's still congruent regardless of which way it's facing. Now let's take a look at this set of shapes here. And what I want you to do, the shapes that come up on the screen, I want you to pause it and I want you to identify the pairs of shapes that are congruent within this set. And there are two pairs of shapes that are congruent. So press pause, take a look at the shapes, and then identify the two pairs of congruent ones. Okay, so if we look at our set of shapes here, we notice that, for example, E and D are both right angle triangles. However, they're not the same size, so we know that they can't be congruent. Likewise with F and J, both rectangles, but different in size, so therefore not congruent. And equally with G and I, they're both trapezia, but they're not the same size. And then if we look at A and C, we notice they're both crosses, or cross shapes, and they are identical in size. So A and C is our first pair of congruent shapes. And then again, talking about that rotation thing that I mentioned earlier, B and H are also congruent. Even though H is a rotation of shape B, they're still the same size. And sometimes rotation may make a shape look a different size, but when you actually get the shapes in your exam, you'll be able to measure them or be able to rearrange them next to each other so you can see the exact size. And if you get it on squared paper, you could also count the squares. But for the purposes of this example here, A and C is one pair and B and H is the other pair of congruent shapes.